Before I continue on, I should state that I think today we're dealing in an age, I should have said this at the very beginning, but we're dealing in an age today where people are now becoming aware of how the existing laws can apply to blockchain and cryptocurrency activities. And today is the day that, this awareness is taking place, and tomorrow will be the day of litigation and enforcement actions. We haven't seen a lot of that yet, but I would venture guess at 6 months to a year from now, there'll be a lot more litigation surrounding the issues that I'm talking about. So that's why I think it's important to consult a lawyer for all of these issues, taxation included.
Right. For how we're looking at the market right now, is it more challenging to do a blockchain related company in any sense or in every sense?
Mm-hmm. Well, you mean than it used to be?
Sure.
Yeah, I'll definitely field that question. I think the answer is yes. And the reason is, back in 2014 to 2016, people weren't even aware, including regulators. Nobody was aware that there was going to be existing laws that applied to blockchain-related activities. They didn't understand how these activities would be caught by the existing regulatory frameworks.
Right.
And now the situation has changed, and the regulatory climate is very much in a constant state of revolution. There seems to be a new development, each week that I'm keeping track of on the Smartblock Law blog. Anyway, so when Ethereum performed their ICO, regulators just had no clue of how to handle it, how to capture it. It was not on their radar at all. And so my sense is that they got a free pass. But things are very different now. And an ICO today is not going to get a free pass. There's just no way. And the regulators may go back, if they determine that Ethereum is a security, or, there's a case right now in the States to determine whether or not Ripple is a security. There's a potential that regulators could go back and, for example, ask for tax revenues. I think that potential is probably limited right now. I don't know for sure, but my sense is that it's limited because at that time, people were doing the best that they could, and they hired their lawyers to provide the best opinions that they could in that regulatory climate. Today, things are different, and lawyers are taking a much more conservative approach at the existing rules as they apply to blockchain activities, because regulators are taking a more conservative approach, right? So everybody now is on edge as to where their ICO is going to be happening, and where are their investors residing, and are they compliant with securities laws in those areas? And, what kind of taxation events are they triggering and all of this stuff? And are they compliant with AML regulations in all of the jurisdictions that are implicated? So these are all issues that are very much on people's minds today, and they should be, and they require a lot of money. And for better or worse, they just weren't on people's minds before. So that's a long-winded answer to your question. The simple answer is yes, it's harder today than it used to be to run a blockchain business.
Right. That's definitely some great information which you have shared. I guess maybe if you wanted to give us maybe a few examples or an idea of maybe some of the blockchain projects, contracts, any kind of issues, right, that have came across your desk, so to speak, that you've seen or experienced and encountered.
Sure. So right now I've reviewed a variety of white papers in a variety of blockchain companies in different areas, in different sectors. I'll highlight a few of them, the ones that are vastly different from each other. So one I'm involved with an ICO. I won't name the sector because that I think would be confidential in this case. But there's one ICO I'm involved with where I'm managing lawyers in other jurisdictions, in addition to doing the securities work here in Ontario. And the reason for that is because, you know, we need a comprehensive compliance campaign, and I've recommended that we restrict the number of jurisdictions that the company is operating in, so that we can, you know, get a manageable compliance campaign. And so that's what we're doing, and I'm managing the lawyers in the other jurisdictions to make sure that we have a common set of opinions, or rather that we have a set of opinions from all the jurisdictions, and I can consolidate them into a report for the client that will enable the client to have uniform operations in all of those jurisdictions. Okay. So that's one of the engagements. Another engagement was with respect to a cryptocurrency ATM issue. Again, I don't want to say too much because I can't betray client confidence, but
sure.
So in that case, we were dealing with various AML issues with regard to the cryptocurrency machine. And that business hopes to eventually branch out into other jurisdictions. And so we're dealing with AML compliance now in, you know, multiple jurisdictions, not only in ours. So, you know, those are a couple. Another one I did was there is an interesting platform that involves a mix of blockchain in terms of, you know, decentralized records and a central location for storing data that the records points to. And so that's a data housing service which is enhanced by a lack of trust, or not having to have trust in any particular company. So, you know, that's and yet there's another there's a blockchain game that I'm helping to develop. That's an interesting one as well. Again, the same issues seem to crop up everywhere. You know, you've got your securities and anti-money laundering and tax issues, which are core, and then you've got, you know, IT vendor contracts and fiduciary duties, etc., which also have to be dealt with. So, yeah, notwithstanding what your blockchain business is about, you know, the same issues have to be considered. It's just that your conclusion is very different between businesses.
Yes, I guess there's a lot to go through and to know, and obviously, you know, consulting a lawyer in this particular field and space with some experience as it applies to, you know, their jurisdiction, wherever one might be. That would be probably the best thing, obviously, for them to do before, you know, doing anything in regards to, I guess, pull out your crypto, or happening to actually invest your crypto, and obviously starting any kind of blockchain company, issuing your own cryptocurrency and ICO, as we may call it. So I guess, there'd certainly be a lot for, you know, someone to do and to know, just to go about everything properly, so that they don't actually get in any kind of legal trouble, I guess.
Yeah, that's 100% true. I should also note that, I mean, some of my clients have come to me a little bit late, and so they've come to me after they've had the threat of regulatory enforcement. And so now we're dealing with potential litigation issues because there was, you know, maybe a little bit of laxness in the past with how they handled regulatory compliance. So we're dealing through those issues as well. So, I mean, not all is lost if your company was not compliant in the past. but they want to get compliant now. You know, you can still maneuver with proper legal advice to place you in a situation of compliance. It just requires, like I said before, the advice of a lawyer experienced in this area.
Great, great. No, understood. It's such a interesting area, right? Especially if you're looking to find the best ways to, earn, and also the best ways to, I guess, just happen to, maneuver, I guess, in this space. And it's just quite interesting to get, a perspective and opinion from someone such as yourself who specializes in this. This is your area of expertise, so to speak. And of course, everyone involved in, blockchain or cryptocurrencies, is constant. Things are constantly changing every second, every day, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, you reminded me of, I think when you and I first met, we met at a networking event, and there was somebody else we were talking to. We won't mention his name, of course, but there was a discussion about
right.
there was a discussion about like it was a rewards points business model involving a physical item which would act as kind of a credit card or a points card. And I've seen this business model several times coming my way in the last 6 months from a variety of businesses. But that particular person that we were speaking to in that conversation wasn't aware that there were laws that applied to that points card or credit card. And so in Canada, that activity is captured by the Bills of Exchange Act, because that card is an instruction or a promise to pay one person an amount through another person. And again, without getting too complex, that activity is governed by existing laws. It's just that I don't think a lot of people know that these sort of activities have restrictions on them. But again, with the proper advice, you can devise a compliance plan and limit your risk that way going forward.
Great. No, that's really interesting. Another question for you.
Sure.
So let's say, and I'm just, using this as an example. Let's say that you have someone who has created a token, so to speak. Okay. So they create this ERC20 token. Let's say that it is that. And then what they're happening to do is have a specific use case for that token. So they're not raising money, right? Or raising funds or raising cryptocurrency. However we should properly say it or use the right verbiage or for this. And they're not doing any kind of an ICO. What they're doing is they're just happening to, use this token for services, right? So they use it as a means of exchange for, say, mentorship program, maybe for, a course, right?
Sure.
You can have access to. It could be, anything, maybe perhaps even physical, right? As a product. Now, let's say that they happen to list or get their token listed on an exchange. Now, of course, as you mentioned, there could be different exchanges, right, under different jurisdictions, which the laws would be, I guess, different as well in that case, right?
Yes, I mean, if tokens can have various different lives. They can exist as a security, as a commodity. as a service potentially with regard to smart contracts, as intellectual property. There's various ways to conceive of a token, and that's what makes this area of law exciting, is because you've got various regulatory regimes clashing. So if you are to consider the securities aspect of that token's life, then when that token is exchanged on an exchange, arguably the exchange should be registered as a dealer, right? Because they're dealing in securities and they're facilitating exchanges between parties. So notwithstanding that the original intent of the token was to be a medium of exchange, if it subsequently turns out to be a security, or a commodity that is regulated differently depending on the jurisdiction, like in the States they have the CFTC regulating commodities, and up here in Canada we don't have a separate body regulating commodities. We have the Securities Commission. So there's got to be like a global compliance effort in every case. That's right now the problem that we're dealing with, but it's also, I mean, we call it a problem, but it's not really. It's a way to ensure that investors' safety is protected. So, sorry, you were asking whether or not the cryptocurrency, like if it started out as something that was clearly not for an ICO, could it still be regulated by securities laws? And the answer, I think, is yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Because what it is, in fact, was, and I mentioned the test before, an investment of money in a common enterprise with profits become significantly from the efforts of others.
Right.
I didn't talk about this before, but that last part, to come significantly from the efforts of others, that was dealt with in the dissent of the Pacific Coin case here in Canada. It's been dealt with in certain cases in the States. And the idea is that market forces could potentially be the efforts of others. So if the value of your thing goes up and down due to market forces, it could still qualify as a security. So, the law will consider, the substance of what the token is rather than the intentions of, what the issuers meant for the token to be. Right.
Yeah. Or maybe what the intended use case would be.
Yeah.
I see. No, that's really good to know. But as you had mentioned, I mean, there is ways to happen to properly go about everything when it comes to cryptocurrencies, whether that be investing, whether that be as it applies to doing an ICO, whether that applies to a mining operation, as we had mentioned, whether that be, you not doing an ICO and just having your token on an actual exchange. And I guess, for better ways to have it, even when it comes to tax, for what we were mentioning also. But I guess you would be the person to go to in that regard.
Well, there are so many different sectors that the blockchain can apply to, and each sector will have a variety of business models. And each business model within each sector deserves individual treatment. And so that's what my firm does. We focus in blockchain and cryptocurrency law and IT law. And, we're able to assess how your particular business is affected by the regulations as they exist today, again, according to Canadian federal and Ontario law. And so, that's what we do.
Awesome. Well, certainly, I'm looking for the best ways possible to navigate whatever it is that I'm trying to do. And I will certainly be in touch with yourself. So, in regards to this, thank you for just coming on and sharing all of the information which you have today, as regulations, laws, and as they apply to jurisdictions for cryptocurrencies in general. Thank you for sharing that information with everyone today. That's very helpful, very valuable. And if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how can they do that? Or what is the best way to perhaps get in touch?
Sure. So to get in touch, I encourage people first to start with my firm's webpage. So www.smartblocklaw.com, all one word, of course. And there are a variety of free resources available to the public regarding various legal issues in the Smartblock Law blog. Okay, so rather than call me and ask me for free legal advice, I like to point people to that blog to get an overview of what issues you might be looking at. Then, if you're serious about your business, continue on to the Retain Us link. And in the Retain Us link, there are steps outlined for how we can begin a client engagement. Okay? And the first step is a client intake form. So fill out the client intake form, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds great. Sounds great. I love the name, by the way. Smartblock Law. I think it's great. Did you come up with that?
Thank you very much. No, it was actually the invention of my wife.
Oh, she's genius.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'll pass that along.
Yes. And well, you're certainly a team player for giving her the credit. So you're a good man.
I try.
Awesome. Well, everyone, thanks again, Chetan, for joining us today. And certainly everyone check out smartblocklaw.com, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks very much.